It is really my pleasure and honor to be invited to give a presentation on the elimination of cancers caused by viruses and bacteria in the Asia-Pacific region. I would like to talk about this achievement and challenges. And in Asian-Pacific region, there are four major leading cancers caused by viruses and bacteria. The liver cancer caused by HBV, hepatitis B virus, and hepatitis C virus. And cervical cancer by human papillomavirus, nasopharyngeal cancer caused by Epstein-Barr virus, as well as stomach cancer caused by Helicobacter pylori. And after the discovery of hepatitis B virus and hepatitis C virus, and we found that in this map of this liver cancer in the world, those countries with high instance of liver cancer also have high prevalence of hepatitis B and hepatitis C infection. And this slide shows this liver cancer incidence and mortality in 21 APEC economies in 2022. And as you can see that there's a wide range of liver cancer incidence. And for the high incidence countries, including this South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, and so forth. And these countries have very high incidence of HBV and HCV chronic infection. And in Taiwan, as an example, after we found that the HBV in Taiwan was transmitted through the perinatal transmission and also horizontal transmission through iatrogenic route, the clinical trial there found that HBV vaccination with HBIG is very effective. So in Taiwan, we initiated the National Hepatitis B vaccination program early in 1984. And as you can see that from 1984 to 2016, and the vaccination coverage increased significantly. And by now, more than 90% of newborn baby received the HBV vaccination. And after we carry out the vaccination program, we found that there's an immunized boys and girls, the liver cancer incidence reduced around 75%. So HBV vaccination, of course, is very important for the prevention of HBV infection and reduce the liver cancer risk. However, in the Asian Pacific region, there's a lot of chronic infection people with the HBV and HCV. So according to our review of HBV, HCV cohort follow-up study carried out in Taiwan, we found that among these chronic HBV carriers, for those who were hepatitis B e antigen positive, have much higher risk of HCC compared with the chronic carrier without hepatitis B e antigen seropositivity. And we also found that the higher the biological gradient of the higher the level of serum HBV DNA, and the higher the risk of HCC after 13 years of follow-up. So Asian Pacific Association for the Liver Study, APASO, proposed this management algorithm for the chronic hepatitis B patient according to the long-term follow-up study. And we used the HBV DNA as well as this HBeAg seropositivity and ALT level to triage the patient into different groups for antiviral therapy, for HCC surveillance, and so forth. And in order to have a better estimation of the HCC risk, we use this kind of biomarkers collected from this long-term follow-up. And we calculate this the risk calculator, and we found that age, gender, family history of HCC, and ALT, HBeAg, and HBV DNA are important. So we incorporate all these biomarkers into a risk calculator and decided which patient can be treated with antiviral, and some of them might need only regular follow-up because they have a very low risk of liver cancer. And in Taiwan, we also started the antiviral therapy of chronic hepatitis B and hepatitis C patients who have high risk to develop the SCC. And as you can see here, I'm sorry for this on a very small slides. We started this treatment program in year 2003, and since then, you can see there's a chronic liver diseases and cirrhosis mortality, as well as liver cancer mortality and incidence are all declined very significantly. And this is the situation in Taiwan. However, as you can see here in Japan, in South Korea, and as well as in Singapore, these 4 countries have very good program for HBV and HCV elimination. And you can see there's a very striking decline in liver cancer mortality. It's within this 25 years, there's around a 75% reduction in liver cancer mortality. And World Health Organization in 2015 proposed 8 targets for viral hepatitis elimination, including the vaccination and also blood safety, and there's a patient diagnosis and the treatment. And in Asian Pacific countries, almost all the countries now, they are engaged in the elimination of viral hepatitis elimination under the push of this Asian Pacific Association for the Study of Liver. And according to our collaboration with US NCI and the Cancer Moonshot study, and we found that by 2050, we can reduce liver cancer mortality by 50%. That's even earlier. And by 2032, both genders will have a 50% reduction in mortality from liver cancer. And with regard to this stomach cancer, it's also very prevalent and have high incidence in Asia Pacific region. After the discovery of Helicobacter pylori, and we found that this high incidence area with gastric cancer also have high prevalence of Helicobacter pylori infection. And as you can see on these slides, on this gastric cancer incidence and mortality in 21 APEC economies, some countries have very high incidence of stomach cancer, and Taiwan is at the middle of that. And many countries engaged in Helicobacter pylori early diagnosis and treatment. In Taiwan, we started the treatment program in year 2004, and the number of treated patients increased very significantly. And as you can see, the gastric cancer mortality in Taiwan is going down, and every year there's around 6.7% reduction. And this kind of reduction in gastric cancer mortality is not only observed in Taiwan, it was also observed in Chile, South Korea, Japan, and other countries. So Helicobacter pylori detection and treatment is very important in this region to reduce the liver cancer, the stomach cancer mortality. And recently, we have Asian Pacific countries has reported so-called Taiwan Global Consensus Report and try to eliminate Helicobacter pylori infection to reduce gastric cancer mortality. And as you can see on our projection in Taiwan, through this Helicobacter pylori detection and treatment, we hope that by 2038, the gastric cancer mortality will reduce 50%. And with regard to the human papillomavirus, we have discussed this today in several regions. After the discovery of the human papillomavirus, and we urged people to get the vaccination. But before then, we already have a good project that's on the pap smear screening. And this kind of early detection of cervical neoplasia is also very popular in Asian Pacific region. And as you can see, on this slide, the cervical cancer incidence and mortality in 21 APEC economies. Listen, a lot of countries have very high instance of cervical cancer. In Taiwan, we initiated the cervical cancer screening program in 1995. And as you can see that the red line is the invasive cancer instance is decreased very significantly, around 75%. And this is also true for the cervical cancer mortality in blue. And you can see there's a very drastic decline in cervical cancer burden. And this kind of cervical cancer instance and mortality declined, as was also observed in many countries in Asian Pacific region, including Chile, Japan, and South Korea. And Taiwan used to have the highest instance of cervical cancer, but in 1997, in 2020, Taiwan became at the middle of it. So this kind of activities is very important in Asian Pacific country. And World Health Organization also proposed 90-70-90 goal. It means that 90% girls fully vaccinated with the HPV vaccine by age of 15, and 70% of women screened with a high precision test at age of 35 and 45. And 90% of women identified with cervical diseases have to receive treatment and care. And according to a recent survey, we found that 14 of 21 APEC economies have this cervical cancer elimination program, and 18 countries have the HPV vaccinating program. For the screening program, there's 20, and for the treatment program, only 14 countries have this kind of cervical cancer treatment program. And so by now, we consider that the cervical cancer elimination program in Asian Pacific countries, we need to move on to this increasing the screening rate, as well as to increase this vaccination rate, and also to have to provide better treatment program for those who have cervical diseases. And the last one I would like to share with you is a nasopharyngeal carcinoma, and it is a Chinese, so-called Chinese cancer, or in Southeastern Asian cancer. And after the discovery of the Epstein-Barr virus, as you can see, that in this Southeastern Asia, where there's men or women have very high or intermediate risk of nasopharyngeal carcinoma. And these nations basically are focused for those who have this Chinese and blood genetic and hybridization. So you can see that people always call this is a kind of so-called Chinese cancer. And we found that in addition to Epstein-Barr virus, host factor, genetic factors, as well as environmental factors are also important in the induction of nasopharyngeal carcinoma. According to a long-term follow-up study in Taiwan, starting from 1984 and to 2001, and after 17 years of follow-up, we found that those who with the EBV antibody positive have a much higher risk than those who are seronegative for anti-EBV antibodies. And recent study found that we used this proteomic analysis and distinct functional antibody signatures between the NPC cases and controls are very strikingly different. And we can adopt it different combination of these functional antibody signatures to predict NPC. And we also found that the EBV DNA, PCR, or the sequencing data can also be used for the prediction of NPC risk. And in Asian Pacific region, China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Singapore have published the recommendation for the Epstein-Barr virus screening of it to early detect this nasopharyngeal cancer and prevent the mortality from the disease. So in conclusion, the cancer caused by bacteria and virus may be prevented by infection control, vaccination, screening, early diagnosis, and treatment of the causal agent. And both incidence and mortality rate of this cancer caused by this biological agent have significantly reduced in several Asian Pacific countries through the prevention continuum from the vaccination to treatment of the bacteria and virus. WHO has proposed the goal and targets to eliminate HBV, HCV, and HPV in 2015, but most Asian Pacific countries may not achieve the 2030 targets. So it needs that international collaboration, government determination, resource allocation, infrastructure building, and public participation. They are all important determinant to achieve the elimination of these cancers caused by bacteria and virus in Asian Pacific region. Thank you very much for your attention.